I couldn't process what the bank manager was saying. The numbers on the paper in front of me looked like they belonged to someone else's life. $78,000. I was sitting in a leather chair wearing a lavender nightgown under my winter coat. Mascara probably streaked down my face, and this woman with kind eyes was telling me I wasn't about to lose everything. I looked down at my hands, at the safe deposit box key I'd found taped inside an envelope with my name on it, and I started to laugh. Not happy laughter. The kind that comes right before you break completely. The manager reached across the desk and squeezed my hand and said, "Your mother made sure you'd be okay." That's when I stopped laughing and started crying so hard I couldn't catch my breath. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back to the beginning, to 3 nights ago, when everything I thought I knew about my life shattered in a single phone call. It was 2 in the morning on a Tuesday in April. That time of year in Newark, when you can finally open the windows and let spring air into rooms that have felt like tombs all winter. I was asleep in my shotgun house with rooms lined up in a row and a back porch, the house I'd lived in for 30 years on a block of apartment buildings with kids playing outside during the day. My daughter was out of town visiting her husband's family, and I'd agreed to let their babysitter stay at their place to watch the kids even though they lived just 10 minutes away. I should mention that I rarely saw those grandchildren anymore. That had become the new normal, though I didn't fully understand why yet. The phone rang and pulled me out of a dream I can't remember now. I fumbled for it in the dark, my heart already pounding because nothing good happens at 2 a.m. The screen's blue light hurt my eyes. I had to blink 3 times before I could read the name. Sarah Martinez, the babysitter. Why would she be calling me? Mrs. Patterson? The babysitter's voice was shaking, high and thin like a wire pulled too tight. I could hear her breathing, fast and shallow, the kind of breathing that comes before panic takes over completely. "There's someone screaming under your stairs." I sat up so fast I got dizzy. The room tilted. "What are you talking about?" "I'm at your house, not your daughter's." The words came out in a rush, tripping over each other. She gave me the wrong address and I didn't realize until I got here. The key worked, and I thought that was weird, but maybe she'd given me a spare to your place by mistake, and I let myself in, and I was trying to call her to tell her I was at the wrong house when I heard it. She stopped, sucked in air. "Someone's screaming. It's coming from under the staircase. Oh my God, Mrs. Patterson, I think someone's trapped down there. It sounds like a woman. She keeps calling for help." My hands were already shaking. I pressed the phone harder against my ear like that would make this make sense. "That's impossible," I said, but I was already pulling on my jeans under my nightgown, grabbing my coat from the chair where I'd thrown it. "There's nothing under those stairs but wall, just drywall and studs. I've lived there 30 years, Sarah. There's no space for anyone to be in." "Mrs. Patterson?" Her voice dropped to a whisper, and that's what scared me most. The whispering, like something might hear her. I can hear her, right now. She's saying, "Please, please, somebody help me." It's coming from inside the wall. I put my hand on the drywall and I can feel vibrations. Someone is in there. "Get out of the house." I was moving now, grabbing my keys, my purse. "Get out right now and wait outside." I already called 911. She was crying now. "The police are on their way. I'm so sorry, I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know if I should stay in case she needs help right away or if I should leave or what, and I couldn't. I had to call someone and your daughter isn't answering her phone and I'm so sorry." "It's okay, baby. You did the right thing." I was in my car now, engine starting, hands still shaking so hard I had trouble getting the key in the ignition on the first try. "Stay outside. Stay where you can see the street. I'm coming right now." I drove through red lights to get there, my hands shaking so hard I could barely grip the wheel. Every stoplight felt like an eternity. I kept thinking about my house, trying to picture the staircase, trying to imagine how there could be space under it that I didn't know about. It was impossible. I'd lived there since I was 23 years old. I knew every inch of that house, every creak in the floor, every crack in the ceiling, every place where the paint had bubbled and peeled over 3 decades of hard living. When I turned onto my street, I saw the lights first, red and blue splashing across the faces of my neighbors who'd come outside in their robes and pajamas. An ambulance, 2 police cars, yellow tape already going up around my front porch. Sarah was standing on the sidewalk wrapped in a blanket someone had given her face white in the streetlights, talking to a police officer and pointing at my house. A officer stopped me at the edge of my yard, his hand on my shoulder firm enough to make it clear I wasn't going anywhere. "Ma'am, you can't go in there right now." "That's my house." I tried to push past him, but he held firm. "What's happening? Is someone hurt?" "The babysitter called me. She said someone was screaming." "Are you Patricia Patterson?" "Yes. Please." "What's going on?" His face changed, got harder. The kind of hard that comes when someone stops seeing you as a person and starts seeing you as a problem. "We need you to come with us. We have some questions." "Questions about what? Is there someone in my house? Did someone break in?" He didn't answer. Just put his hand on my elbow and started walking me toward one of the police cars. I looked back and saw them bringing someone out on a stretcher. An old woman. White hair. Thin. So thin she looked like she might blow away. An oxygen mask over her face. Her eyes were open and moving, darting around like she was trying to figure out where she was. "Who is that?" I asked, but I already knew. I'd seen pictures, holiday cards, Facebook posts. My daughter's husband's mother, the one who'd supposedly moved to Florida 6 months ago, the one who sent postcards that her son had probably written himself. "Oh my God, that's Eleanor. That's Eleanor Morrison." The officer's grip on my elbow got tighter. They found her in a crawl space I didn't know existed. His mother, my daughter's husband's mother. She'd been reported missing 6 months ago, and the whole time she was under my stairs, in my house, in a space someone had carved out of the foundation. She had dementia. She was dehydrated and confused and kept asking for her son. The son who'd put her there. The son who'd been collecting her Social Security checks while telling everyone she'd moved to Florida to be near her sister. I spent 6 hours in a police station answering the same questions over and over. Did I know she was there? Did I help hide her? Did I have any knowledge of the financial fraud being committed in her name? The interrogation room was small and cold and smelled like old coffee and desperation. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, the kind that give you a headache if you sit under them too long. I sat under them for 6 hours. "Mrs. Patterson, I need you to think very carefully." The detective was a woman about my age, tired eyes, wedding ring worn thin on her finger. "You're telling me you had no idea there was a crawl space under your staircase?" "No idea. None. I've lived there 30 years. "And you never heard anything? No sounds? No movements?" "No. I'm at work most days. I work at the DMV. I'm there 8 to 6, Monday through Friday. And I'm at church on Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings. I'm not home much." "What about at night?" "I sleep heavy. I have since I was a kid. My mother used to say a train could run through my bedroom and I wouldn't wake up. Someone had a key to your house. It wasn't a question. Who has keys to your property?" "My daughter. That's it. Just my daughter and me." "Not your son-in-law?" I thought about it. Tried to remember. He might have a copy of hers. I don't know. I never gave him one directly. "When was the last time you saw him in your house?" "I don't know. A month ago? Maybe longer? We're not close. He and my daughter, they keep their distance." The detective wrote something in her notebook. "Do you know why they keep their distance?" He told her I was a bad influence. Said I was trying to interfere in their marriage. Said I needed to respect boundaries. My voice broke on that last word. So I did. I stayed away. I thought I was doing the right thing. And you never thought it was strange that they suddenly wanted nothing to do with you? Of course I thought it was strange. It broke my heart. But what was I supposed to do? Show up where I wasn't wanted? Make things worse? The tears came then, hot and angry. I tried to respect what they asked for. I didn't know he was using that distance to turn my own home into a prison. They kept me there while they searched my house, took apart my stairs, found the false wall, found the supplies he'd been bringing in: water bottles, crackers, adult diapers, medication to keep her quiet, a bedpan, blankets, a battery-powered light, everything you'd need to keep someone alive in a space barely big enough to lie down in. They found his fingerprints on everything. Not mine, never mine. But I could see in their eyes that they didn't believe me. How could I not know someone was living under my stairs? What kind of person doesn't notice screaming in their own home? The kind who wasn't living there anymore, it turned out. That's what I finally pieced together while they questioned me. My daughter's husband had keys to my house. He'd been letting himself in when I was at work or at church. He'd been slowly, methodically moving his mother into my foundation, feeding her, medicating her, keeping her quiet during the hours I might be home, and planning, always planning, for the day they could push me out entirely. They let me go around 8 in the morning, told me not to leave town. My house was a crime scene. I couldn't go back inside. I stood on my front porch in my nightgown and coat, watching the sun come up over my neighborhood, and I realized I had nowhere to go, no daughter to call, no home to return to. Nothing. Mrs. Chen was still standing on her porch 3 doors down, still in her pink bathrobe, watching. She'd been there all night, I realized, keeping vigil. When she saw me standing there, lost, she came down her steps and walked over to me. "You'll stay with me," she said. Not a question, a statement. That's when I remembered the pot of collard greens I'd left simmering on the stove the night before. The way my mother taught me, low and slow until the pot liquor turned sweet. I wondered if the police had turned it off, or if it had burned dry by now, ruining the pot she'd given me when I first moved into this house 30 years ago. That detail shouldn't have mattered, but it was the thing that broke me. I sat down on my porch steps and put my face in my hands and let myself fall apart where anyone could see. Mrs. Chen sat down next to me. She didn't say anything. Just sat there in her pink bathrobe while I cried. The sun kept rising. The neighbors kept watching. The police kept working in my house. And Mrs. Chen just sat, steady and solid and present in a way that felt like the only real thing in my world. Finally, she spoke. My daughter did something similar to me. Different details, same betrayal. You think you raised them right, and then you find out they're capable of things you can't imagine. I don't understand how this happened, I said. How did I not know? Because you're not supposed to look for evil in your own child. That's not how motherhood works. She stood up, held out her hand. Come on. I have a couch with your name on it and I make terrible coffee, but it's hot. I tried calling my daughter 17 times that day. She didn't answer. Later, I found out her husband had already told her I'd been arrested, that they'd found his mother in my house, that I was the one who'd hidden her there as part of some scheme to steal her money. He'd flipped the whole story before I even knew there was a story to flip, made himself the hero and me the villain. The lawyer who called me 2 days later explained the rest. The credit cards taken out in my name. The reverse mortgage on my house that I'd supposedly signed for but had never seen. The plan to have me declared incompetent so they could take full control of my assets while I was still alive. His mother in my crawl space was just the final piece, the thing that would make me look so guilty and unstable that no one would question when they had me committed. You have 30 days before the bank forecloses, he said. I'm sorry. Unless you can come up with $78,000 to pay off the fraudulent mortgage and clear the title, you're going to lose your home. $78,000. I had $400 in my checking account and a credit score that had been destroyed by cards I never opened. I had a daughter who wouldn't speak to me, and grandchildren I'd probably never see again. I had a house I couldn't live in that was about to be taken from me anyway. I had nothing. The thing about having nothing is that it clarifies everything. All the social niceties fall away. All the pretending stops. You're just raw need and fear and the animal instinct to survive. I stopped showering, stopped changing out of my nightgown. I moved through the days like a ghost, staying on Mrs. Chen's couch because she offered and I had nowhere else to go. Mrs. Chen's apartment was small and neat, everything in its place. She had doilies on the furniture and pictures of her grandchildren on every surface. In the morning, she'd make tea, strong black tea that she'd pour into delicate cups with painted flowers on them. She'd bring me a cup and set it on the coffee table next to where I'd spent another sleepless night. And she wouldn't comment on the fact that I was still in the same nightgown, that I smelled bad, that I was falling apart in her living room. "You need to eat," she'd say, and she'd bring soup or rice or dumplings, simple food, the kind that doesn't require much chewing or thinking. I'd eat a few bites to make her happy, and then I'd go back to staring at her ceiling, at the water stain in the corner that looked like a bird if you squinted. She never asked me to leave, never made me feel like a burden. She'd just go about her day, doing her laundry and watching her shows and cooking her meals, and she'd bring me into her routine without making a fuss about it. "I'm going to the store," she'd say. "You want to come?" And I'd shake my head and she'd nod and say, "Okay, I'll be back in an hour." Sometimes her daughter would call and I'd hear Mrs. Chen on the phone in the kitchen, her voice low and firm. "No, she's still here. No, I don't know when she's leaving. Because she needs help, that's why. Because that's what neighbors do. Don't you talk to me about inconvenience. You don't know anything about what real trouble looks like." The neighborhood watched me fall apart. I could feel their eyes on me when I walked to the corner store for cigarettes I didn't smoke but bought anyway, just to have something to do with my shaking hands. Kids who used to call me Miss Patty crossed the street to avoid me. Their parents had told them I was dangerous, that I'd kept an old woman prisoner. Nobody wanted to hear that I was innocent. The story was too good, too horrible, too perfect in its awfulness. Mr. Washington from the corner house stopped me one day when I was walking back from the store. He was old, had to be pushing 90, but his eyes were sharp and clear. "I know you didn't do it," he said. I just stared at him. "I seen that boy coming and going from your house. Saw him there at odd hours. Thought he was helping you with something. Told the police all about it. Gave them dates and times." He patted my shoulder with a hand that shook with age. "Truth comes out eventually. You just got to survive long enough to see it." I tried to pray. I sat in the back pew of the church where my mother had volunteered for 40 years. The church where I'd been baptized and confirmed and married, and where we'd held her funeral almost a decade ago. I held the church fan with Martin Luther King's face on it and stared at the cross and waited for God to tell me what to do. But there was only silence and the smell of old wood and carpet that needed replacing. Pastor Williams found me there one afternoon. I don't know how long I'd been sitting, staring at nothing. He sat down next to me, his weight making the old pew creak. "You want to talk about it? What's there to say?" "Whatever you need to say." "I didn't do it." My voice came out flat, dead. "In case you're wondering." "I know you didn't. Does everyone else know that?" He was quiet for a moment. "People believe what they want to believe. What makes the best story? It's easier to think you did something wrong than to accept that sometimes terrible things happen to good people for no reason at all." "So what am I supposed to do? Just wait around while everyone thinks I'm a monster?" "You're supposed to survive. That's all any of us can do. Survive and wait for the truth to catch up with the lies." On the 7th day after they found her, I gave up. Not in the sense that I decided to end things, but in the sense that I stopped fighting, stopped calling my daughter,
Stopped checking my phone. Stopped imagining scenarios where this all worked out. I accepted that I was 53 years old and about to lose everything my mother had sacrificed to give me. This was how my story ended. In shame and confusion, and a nightgown I'd worn so many times, it was soft as tissue paper. Mrs. Chen made me eat. She'd bring soup to her couch where I spent most of my time staring at her ceiling, and she'd sit with me until I swallowed at least half of it. She never asked questions, never tried to make me feel better with platitudes. She just witnessed my destruction with a kind of practical compassion that felt more holy than anything I'd found in church. "You should look through your mother's things," she said one afternoon. "Sometimes our people leave us more than we realize." "My mother left debt and exhaustion," I said. "That's all she had to give." Mrs. Chen shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe you haven't looked hard enough." I thought about my mother constantly during those days, how she'd worked 3 jobs to keep us fed, to keep a roof over our heads in this same neighborhood, how she'd come home with her feet swollen and her back aching and still make dinner, still help with homework, still sing while she cleaned. We'd had a complicated relationship, fighting about everything from my choice in men to how I raised my kids, but we always found our way back to each other. Always. She'd died of a heart attack at 68, too young, too tired, too worn down by a life that demanded more than she had to give. I wore her cardigan to the funeral, the one that still smelled like her perfume and cigarettes, and the cocoa butter lotion she rubbed into her hands every night. I'd kept it in my closet all these years, pulling it out when I needed to feel close to her. I wished she could see me now. Or maybe I was grateful she couldn't. I wasn't sure which was worse. On the 9th day, I forced myself to go to the church to look for her birth certificate. The lawyer had said I needed it to prove my identity in the fraud case, to establish that I was who I said I was, and not some criminal who'd stolen a life. The irony wasn't lost on me. The church secretary let me into the office where my mother had volunteered, filing bulletins and organizing the food pantry and keeping track of member birthdays. Her handwriting was still on some of the files. I sat at her old desk and opened the drawer where she used to keep her purse and her reading glasses and the butterscotch candies she'd sneak to kids during long sermons. There was a folder I'd never seen before. Just a plain manila folder with important papers written on the tab in her handwriting. Inside, her birth certificate, mine, my children's, social security cards, vaccination records, all the documentation of our lives in her careful cursive. And taped to the inside of the envelope that held my birth certificate, a key, small and brass and attached to a piece of paper that said, First National Bank, Box 247. My hand started shaking again, but for a different reason this time. I knew that bank. It was 3 blocks from the church. I'd walked past it 1,000 times growing up. My mother used to point at it when we'd walk by. "That's where important things are kept," she'd say. I'd always thought she meant for rich people, people who had things worth protecting. I didn't change out of my nightgown, didn't go back to Mrs. Chen's to put on real clothes. I just grabbed my coat and the key and walked out of that church like something was chasing me. Maybe something was. Maybe it was hope, which can be more terrifying than despair. The walk to the bank felt both endless and too short. I kept thinking I should turn back, go home, get dressed like a normal person. But I couldn't stop moving. My feet carried me forward like they knew something my brain hadn't caught up to yet. The bank was just opening when I got there. A security guard held the door for me, and I saw his eyes travel over my appearance. The nightgown, the coat, the hair I hadn't washed in over a week. He didn't say anything, but I saw him step a little closer, his hand moving toward his radio. The woman at the counter looked at me with my tangled hair and my nightgown and my wild eyes, and I saw her reach for something under the desk. Probably a panic button. I must have looked unhinged. "I have a key," I said, holding it up. My voice came out rough, like I hadn't used it in days.
I need to access a safe deposit box. She looked at the key, then at me. Her expression was careful, neutral. What's the box number? 247. Something changed in her face. Recognition. Maybe relief. She picked up her phone, made a call, spoke quietly. Then she came around the counter. Come with me, Mrs. Patterson. I froze. How do you know my name? I've been expecting you. Not today specifically, but someday. Your mother set this up 33 years ago. She said one day you'd come with that key. The woman smiled, and it was gentle. Kind. I'm Helen Morrison. I've worked here for 40 years. I knew your mother. She came in every month like clockwork. Every month? For 33 years. Come on. Let me take you to the room. The room she led me to was small and windowless. She brought the box, set it on the table between us, and then did something unexpected. She sat down. Take your time, she said. I'll stay if you need me. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely get the key in the lock. When I opened the box, I saw papers first, bank statements going back decades. Then I understood. A savings account opened the year I was born. Monthly deposits, $20, $30, $50, sometimes just $10. Deposits made on the same day every month for 33 years straight, stopping only the month she died. Every statement filed carefully in chronological order so I could see the pattern of her sacrifice laid out like a prayer. I pulled out the statements, spread them across the table, watched the numbers grow, watched my mother's love accumulate in dollars and cents. In her handwriting on the deposit slips. For Patricia. Every single one. For Patricia. For Patricia. For Patricia. The current balance, after interest compounding for nearly a decade since her death, $78,412. The exact amount I needed to save my house. The exact amount. Like she'd known. Like she'd calculated this moment in her death. But that wasn't what destroyed me. What destroyed me was the letter underneath all the statements. Written in her handwriting on lined paper torn from a spiral notebook. No date. Just my name at the top and her words below. Baby, I know life is hard. I know it better than most. I know people will try to take from you, will try to make you feel small, will try to convince you that you're not worth protecting. I know this because I lived it, and because I saw it coming for you too. This money is so you always have something they can't touch, something that's just yours. I started saving it the day you were born, and I kept saving it even when I didn't have enough for myself because you are worth it. You have always been worth it. I won't be there when you find this. I don't know when that will be or what will have happened to make you need it. But I know you will need it because this world is not kind to women like us. Women who work hard and love hard and get taken advantage of because we don't know how to be anything else. Don't feel guilty about taking this money. Don't think about what I went without to save it. I went without so you wouldn't have to. That was my choice and my joy. You were always my joy, even when we fought, even when you made me crazy, even when I couldn't say it out loud because I was too tired and too angry at how hard everything was. Use this money to save yourself, and then use your life to help someone else. That's how love works. It doesn't die. It just keeps going through the people we leave behind. I love you forever. I love you past death. I love you through this money that I scraped together penny by penny because I knew someday you'd need proof that you mattered to someone. You matter. You always mattered. Don't let anyone make you forget that. Love, Mama. I don't know how long I sat there crying. Helen from the bank held my hand and didn't say anything while I sobbed so hard I thought I'd be sick. When I could finally breathe again, when I could finally speak, all I could say was, she knew. She knew I'd need exactly this much. She asked about it every time she came in. Helen said quietly. She'd want to know how the interest was doing, if the account was growing fast enough. She had a number in her head. Said she needed to get to at least $75,000, because that's what it would take to save a house from foreclosure and pay the legal fees to fight fraud. She died before she hit that number, but the interest kept accumulating. She was $3,000 short when she passed. The bank made up the difference. What? Our manager at the time, Mr. Roberts, he'd watched her come in every month for 30 years. When she died, he added $3,000 to her account as a memorial gift. He said she'd earned it. He said 30 years of perfect deposits deserved to hit the goal. I put my face down on that table and wept for my mother who'd worked herself to death to leave me something, for Mr. Roberts who'd recognized her sacrifice, for Helen sitting next to me who'd waited years to deliver this gift to a stranger in a nightgown who'd lost everything. I need you to know something else, Helen said softly. Your mother made me promise to tell you this when you came. She said you'd feel guilty. She said you'd wish she'd spent this money on herself, made her life easier. But she wanted you to know that saving this money for you was what made her life worth living. It gave her purpose. Every dollar she put in here was a dollar of hope. Hope that you'd be okay. Hope that her love would reach you even after she was gone. When I could speak again, I said, I need to pay off a mortgage. I know, your mother left instructions. The money can only be withdrawn for specific purposes. Housing is one of them. I'll start the paperwork. I walked out of that bank 3 hours later with a certified check and documentation that would clear my name and save my home. The sun was bright, too bright for someone who'd been living in darkness for 9 days. I stood on the sidewalk outside the bank and pulled my mother's cardigan out of my bag, the one I'd been carrying everywhere like a talisman. I pressed it to my face and breathed in the fading scent of her and said out loud, right there on the street where anyone could hear, Thank you, Mama. Thank you for seeing this coming. Thank you for saving me. An old man walking past nodded at me like that was a perfectly normal thing to say to the air. Maybe in this neighborhood it was. Maybe we all talked to our dead here. Maybe that's what kept us alive. I called the lawyer from the steps of the bank, told him I had the money, heard the shock in his voice when I said I could wire it today. He'd already started preparing for me to lose the house. I could tell. He'd written me off as another casualty of family fraud, another middle-aged woman who'd be destroyed by people she'd trusted. Where did you get $78,000? He asked. My mother left it to me. I thought you said she died with nothing. I was wrong. She left me everything. The next week moved in a blur of paperwork and phone calls and meetings with people who suddenly treated me like I was human again. Money does that. Changes how people see you. Makes you real. The police arrested my daughter's husband, charged him with elder abuse, fraud, identity theft, a list of crimes so long it took the prosecutor 20 minutes to read them all. His mother was placed in a memory care facility where she's getting the help she needed, where she's safe and medicated and no longer screaming under anyone's stares. I started visiting Eleanor, my ex-son-in-law's mother, at the memory care facility. I didn't plan to. The first time I went, I told myself I was just checking to make sure she was being treated well, that I wasn't going to go back. But something about seeing her there, clean and safe, and sitting in a chair by a window with actual sunlight on her face, it broke something open in me. She didn't know who I was. Most days she didn't know who anyone was. But she smiled when she saw me, and that felt like enough. I'd bring her butterscotch candies, the kind my mother used to carry, and I'd sit with her while she sucked on them and looked out the window at the birds. My son is coming to visit today, she'd say every single time. He's such a good boy, takes such good care of me. The nurses told me not to correct her, not to tell her the truth about where her son was and why he couldn't visit. So I'd just nod and say, That's nice, Eleanor. I'm sure he loves you very much. He does, she'd say, so confident. He's always taken such good care of me. I'd hold her hand and wonder what it would be like to forget the bad things, to only remember the love, even if it was a lie.
Maybe that was a mercy. Maybe dementia was a kindness in her case, letting her hold on to the son she thought she had instead of the one who'd stuffed her under someone's stairs and forgotten about her. My daughter sent me a text 2 weeks after her husband's arrest. Just 2 words. I'm sorry. I stared at those words for a long time. Thought about all the ways I could respond, all the anger I had every right to feel, all the forgiveness she probably expected. Instead, I deleted the message, blocked her number. Some doors, once closed, stay that way. Not because I'm cruel, but because I finally understand that I deserve better than people who only apologize when they've been caught. The thing is, I know she was poisoned against me. I know he was in her ear for years, telling her I was unstable, that I was a burden, that she needed to protect her children from my influence. I know she's probably devastated right now. Her life exploded, her children confused, her husband in jail. I know all of this, and I still can't bring myself to care. That makes me feel like a bad mother. It also makes me feel free. I sold the house. I couldn't live there anymore. Couldn't walk past that staircase without hearing phantom screaming. A young couple bought it, first-time homeowners with a baby on the way. They asked if the house had any history they should know about. I told them it was a good house that had seen some hard times, but that every house has a story, and now they'd get to write a new one. That felt true enough. With the money from the sale and what was left of my mother's gift after I paid off the fraud, I moved to a small town in Pennsylvania where nobody knows me. A quiet town where nobody knows her history. I found a 1-bedroom apartment with a kitchen window that gets morning light. I brought my mother's cardigan and the pot she'd given me for collard greens and not much else. Simplicity embraces quiet freedom and solitude. Turns out I don't need much to be happy. I got a job at the public library shelving books and helping people find things they've lost in the stacks. The work is quiet and predictable, and nobody asks me about my past. I come home to my 1-bedroom apartment and make dinner just for myself, and sit by my window and watch the light change and feel something I haven't felt in years. Peace. Actual peace. But the most important thing I do now, the thing that makes my mother's sacrifice mean something beyond just saving me, happens every Christmas. I spend a week shopping for gifts for children in foster care. Real gifts, not the cheap stuff people usually donate. I buy the toys kids actually want, the clothes that fit and look good, the books and art supplies and games they've been hoping for. I pack them carefully and deliver them to the local foster care office, and I never put my name on anything. I do this because my mother was one of those kids once, because she knew what it meant to have nothing and no one, because she spent her whole life trying to make sure I never felt that way, and now I'm trying to make sure other forgotten children know they matter too. Christmas gifts every year to children in foster care, because she was one. That's how I honor her. That's how I keep her love alive. Every year on the anniversary of finding that safe deposit box, I go back to Newark. I visit my mother's grave, and I bring flowers, and I sit on the grass and tell her everything that's happened. I tell her about the children I've helped. I tell her about my quiet life and my morning light and my peace. I thank her again for seeing the future clearly enough to protect me from it. Sometimes Mrs. Chen meets me there. We don't talk much. Just sit together in the cemetery and remember the people who saved us. She brings fruit for her grandmother's grave. I bring butterscotch candies for my mother, because she always had them in her purse, and I like to think her spirit appreciates the gesture. Last time I was there, Mrs. Chen said something that stayed with me. Your mother knew what I'm only just learning, that protecting the people we love doesn't end when we die. It just changes forms. She was right. The money my mother left wasn't really about money. It was about making sure I knew I was loved. That even when everyone else walked away, even when my own daughter chose someone else over me, even when the whole world looked at me like I was garbage, my mother was still there. Still protecting me. Still fighting for me from beyond the grave. There's something I need people to understand about this. Something I've learned that feels important to share. It's about intergenerational trauma.
about how pain and patterns get passed down through families until someone breaks the cycle. My mother grew up in foster care. She was shuffled between homes, never adopted, never claimed by anyone. She grew up believing she was disposable. That belief shaped how she loved, how she worked, how she saved every penny she could because money was the only thing that couldn't abandon you. She broke that cycle for me. Gave me a stable home, a mother who stayed, proof that I mattered. But the trauma was still there, just wearing a different face. It showed up in how hard she worked, how she couldn't rest, how she died too young from the stress of trying to be enough for everyone. And then I passed it on to my daughter without meaning to. Worked too much. Was too focused on providing and not enough on connecting. Made her feel like she had to choose between me and her own family. Created the space where someone like her husband could come in and convince her I was the problem. The pattern keeps going until someone stops it. That's what the research shows. Research proves that half of all people with dementia experience abuse, often by family members who see them as financial opportunities rather than human beings who deserve dignity. My former son-in-law's mother was part of that statistic. She was inconvenient, so he made her disappear. And it's getting worse. During the pandemic, research showed abuse increased to 1 in 5 seniors. 1 in 5. Those aren't just numbers. Those are grandmothers and fathers and aunts and neighbors. People who worked hard their whole lives only to end up hidden under stairs or locked in rooms or slowly poisoned by the people who were supposed to love them. This is why I give to foster kids every Christmas. Because the cycle starts there. In children who learn they're disposable. In kids who grow up believing love is conditional, that it can be taken away at any moment, that they need to hoard whatever they can get, because nothing lasts. My mother tried to break that cycle by giving me everything. But what I've learned is that everything isn't enough if you don't also give people the tools to protect themselves. If you don't teach them to recognize abuse, if you don't show them what healthy love actually looks like. So here's what I want you to take from this story. If you have aging parents, protect them. Make sure their legal documents are in order. Make sure you know where their money is. Make sure they have advocates who will notice if they disappear. Don't assume family means safety. Sometimes family is the most dangerous place to be. And if you're like me, if you're the one who's been betrayed, who's lost everything, who's sitting in a church pew in a nightgown wondering how you'll survive, I need you to hear this. Look for the love that's still there. Look for the protection that still exists even when people are gone. Your mother, your father, your grandmother, whoever loved you, they left you more than you realize. Maybe not money, maybe just their example, their strength, their refusal to give up. That's worth more than $78,000. That's worth everything. I'm 53 years old now, and I'm finally learning what my mother knew all along. That love doesn't die. It just changes forms. It becomes money in a bank account. It becomes a cardigan that still smells like home. It becomes the strength to walk away from people who hurt you. It becomes the ability to help others who are where you used to be. My daughter tried to call me last week. I didn't answer. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday she'll do the work to understand what she participated in, what she allowed to happen. Maybe someday we'll sit in a room and she'll take real accountability and I'll be ready to hear it. But right now, today, I'm choosing me. I'm choosing peace and morning light, and the quiet freedom of a life where nobody's stealing from me or lying to me or hiding people under my stairs. I'm choosing to honor my mother's sacrifice by living the kind of life she wanted for me. Safe, stable, free. I think about her every single day. I talk to her out loud when I'm cooking collard greens the way she taught me. I wear her cardigan when I'm cold or sad or just missing her. I hold the church fan with Martin Luther King's face on it, and I remember sitting next to her in that back pew, watching her mouth the words to hymns she'd known since childhood. She would be proud of me now. Not for the money or the apartment or the quiet life. She'd be proud that I finally understand what she was trying to teach me all along. That I'm worth protecting. That I deserve to be loved. that no one gets to make me feel small ever again. That's the gift she really left me. Not $78,000. The knowledge that I matter. The proof that someone saw my whole life stretched out ahead and thought it was worth investing in. The understanding that her love didn't die with her. It just waited until I needed it most, and then it saved me. So if you're listening to this, and you're thinking about your own mother, your own protector, the person who sacrificed for you, go tell them they matter. If they're still here, say it out loud. If they're gone, say it anyway. They hear you. I really believe that. And if you're the one doing the protecting, if you're the one working 3 jobs and going without and trying to save your children from the hardness of this world, know that it matters. Every dollar, every sacrifice, every moment you choose them over yourself, it all matters. Maybe not today, maybe not for years, but someday your child will open a safe deposit box or read a letter or hold something you touched, and they'll understand. They'll know they were loved. They'll know they were worth it. That knowledge will save them when nothing else can. I live in a small town now where the streets are quiet and the people mind their own business, and spring feels like actual renewal instead of just another season I have to survive. I work at the library and help people find lost things, and every night I come home to my 1-bedroom apartment, and I'm happy. Actually happy. The kind of happy my mother wanted for me but never got to have herself. I wish she could see me now. I wish I could tell her it worked. Her plan. Her sacrifice. Her love that transcended death and reached through time to catch me when I fell. But maybe she does see me. Maybe she knows. Maybe that's why I feel her presence so strongly sometimes. Like she's sitting next to me on my couch, smiling that satisfied smile she'd get when things finally worked out the way she'd hoped. I don't know where you're listening to this from or what your relationship with your own parents looks like. Maybe it's complicated like mine was. Maybe it's loving and simple. Maybe they're gone and you're still figuring out what they left you. Whatever your story is, I hope you'll take a moment to think about the people who protected you. The ones who went without so you could have more. The ones who saw your future and tried to make it easier. Tell them thank you. Or just think it really loud. They'll hear you. I really believe they will. And if you connected with this story, if something in it resonated with your own experience, do me a favor. Hit that like button so other people who need to hear this can find it. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what this brought up for you. I read every single comment, and your stories mattered just as much as mine. Thank you for listening. Thank you for witnessing this. Thank you for letting me honor my mother by sharing what she did for me. She saved my life twice. Once when she raised me, and once when she left me proof that I was worth saving. I hope I'm making her proud.